That's what I'd want to know from Jasbir Singh, Chairman and CEO of Amber Enterprises. Mr. Singh, thank you so much for your time to us on NDTV Profit this morning. Let's start by getting your take on the PLI scheme and its relevance for you specifically.
No, we really applaud a very well timed out scheme by Government of India Ministry of Electronics. You see, as a rule of physics, first, the government has laid a lot of incentives for the assembly businesses. Last 7 years have been assembly incentives, and now we can see that assembly has started happening for mobile phones, for laptop, IT servers, etc. And now is the time for the components. And I think in components, active side has already been given first scheme. This is the first scheme on the passive component side. And we are very excited for this scheme. Normally, the passive side of the components have asset-heavy businesses. So without incentives, it was very difficult to take care of the disability. But at Amber, we are very excited. It's a rightly timed out scheme, and we are planning a good capex to bring in. And we already have our printed circuit board division as Ascent Circuits company, which we acquired last year. And we are already manufacturing single layer, double layer, and multi-layer and RF PCBs. Now for the HDI and semiconductor substrates and flex, we have done a technological tie-up with the Korea Circuits, which is one of the leading South Korea-based company, and it's a joint venture which we have done with them. So they will be providing us technological support as well as some buyback arrangements. So we are all set to go for taking care of this and applying for these incentive schemes.
What is the kind of revenue you see coming in from some of those schemes? Of course, there's a process, you'll apply for the scheme, etc., and that will all follow through. But some of the targets that you could share with us?
Well, this is a 5-year scheme. So there will be a threshold which will be announced in the guidelines. So we are awaiting for the guidelines to be announced. It's normally the PCB business of HDI and semiconductor substrates ranges in the asset turns of 1. And we at Amber, we are planning to invest almost about 3,000 crore over period of the scheme. So that will be the overall revenue increase which we are anticipating as we move ahead.
Mr. Singh, good morning, Neeraj here. I always pronounce your name as Amber, and then people tell me it's Amber. So I'll make it a point that I pronounce it Amber now, just so that I get it right. But
thank you.
But a question, we were talking to another, not technically a peer of yours, but another company in the PLI space or electronic manufacturing space, which yesterday said that this component manufacturing PLI could help spur margins significantly for them. Their base is at 4, of course, and therefore it's good for them. I'm just trying to understand from your perspective, does a component PLI help you expand margins as you operate that piece?
Yes, Neeraj, indeed, these kind of businesses, especially the passive component side, if you see globally also, it's a high teen businesses. So normally the PCBA applications are hovering around 8 to 9%, but this high teens addition will definitely enhance the margin profitability of the complete electronics division for us.
So you are at what, circa 7%, right, on the overall console numbers for yourself. If you add this, let's say you back the PLI to the extent that you want, you put it in operation in 2 years, let's say, 2 years out, what does the margin potential become for you, assuming that you bag it to the extent that you want?
Well, I think overall console numbers will definitely go up once the electronics division starts moving towards the double-digit numbers. So we are expecting our electronics division to touch double-digit numbers as soon as we implement this incentives, capex for this incentive scheme announced. So maybe by 27, 28, we should see our electronics division going towards a double-digit, which will also increase the overall Amber console numbers towards maybe 9.5% type.
Sorry, you're saying 9.5% possibility, of course, but 9.5%. We are in FY26 currently. By FY28, you reckon you could actually nudge 9.5% operating margins consolidated?
Neeraj, it will depend when the guidelines are opened and how much time it is taken for the approval of the applicants.
But could happen. So, if not FY28, FY29 could happen.
FY29, yeah, that's right. Yeah,
wow,
that's what we are looking at.
From 7% to 9%, that's a decent leap. well,
That's, you see, when we acquired electronics, we started electronics division in 2018 by acquiring Ilgin Electronics. It was a small 300 crore company with 2.8% EBITDA. Now we have already reached to almost 7.5 to 8% in our electronics division, and that's growing by about 50%, 45 to 50%. So with this scheme coming in and the high teens margin getting up, definitely it will enhance the overall margin scheme of the console balance sheet.
The conditionality that we know so far for the PLI scheme, can you just give us your perspective on that? Because some of it is about employees that you hire, some of it is linked to capex, some of it is linked to turnover. So how do you sit in that sort of framework and the conditions that are there?
See, I think everything will be clear once the guidelines are open. So I think the broader objective is to bring component ecosystem as well as incentivize the incremental sale you bring on the table and also the employment you generate. So it's a very well thought of structured scheme, laid out by Government of India. We are all waiting for the guidelines which will clarify all these points.
Fair enough, but I'm just saying because you already have, Mr. Singh, experience with the PLI scheme and dealing with it thus far. So fetching from that, things like the timeline for the subsidies to actually pay out or, to hit your balance sheet, the kind of conditionality which has come, it'll be more of the same, one assumes.
No, in our air conditioning PLI, it was totally different. It was because that was a component scheme where we were aiming for the value addition, and already it's been a very, very successful scheme. From 25% value addition in 2021, we have already reached to 65% value addition as an industry. Compressor plants have been put up, copper plants have been put up, and it's going towards 80% in next 2 years. Here, what we see in the incentive scheme in electronic scheme, it's a combination of asset turns, incremental sale, because every component has a different type of a threshold of asset turn. So it will be very clear what component you are applying for and what is the asset turn outlaid in the guidelines. And of course, every sector like PCB is a labor intensive job, so there will be employment generation. So everything will be linked. Then only you will get approved on this. But as far as the timely payments are concerned, we really applaud the Government of India on this front. We have been receiving all the PLIs in air conditioner. Also, we have received 36 crore of sanction letter just last week, which is on time. Last year also we were paid on time. We have already received these incentives on time.
Okay. Mr. Singh, the other question that I have is that for the last 3 months, we've been hearing about this shortage of components, back-end equipment, what have you, which will lead to a big shortage of air conditioners by and large. Now, you are prime in that segment, right? I'm trying to understand whether Q4 was a really, there was a high demand for stuff that you're manufacturing. Is there a direct correlation out there? Part one is that. Part two is that we've seen this conversation come up after a year wherein we saw some 40-45% growth in dispatches, right? 2024 was in some sense a banner year for cooling solution products. And on top of that, you are seeing a first quarter which said that there'll be shortages. So is there some inflection point that has come into demand for cooling solutions? And does that impact your growth meaningfully as well?
No, actually, Neeraj, yes, it has been a extremely a good season for the entire AC industry, and everybody has benefited out of that. Q4 also was a very, very positive quarter. Basically, industry was anticipating a growth of almost 15 to 20%, whereas we saw a growth of more than 35%. So, and on the other side, because of the quality control orders, there were some, compressors plant capacities which are to be generated still. So there are already 5 compressor plants which have been put up. Earlier, there was only 1 compressor plant. There was a shortage there. I mean, we were discussing about the shortage, but now because of government's intervention, we are hearing that the quality control orders will be, there will be extension towards that. And more capacities are being bought up in the compressor plants by the compressor companies. So I don't think so there should be a very big, anything very large coming out on the compressor shortage point of view, or any other component point of view.
Okay, but presuming that there is a bit of an inflection point in demand that started sometime in January last year, and don't know the reason but thereof, I'm just trying to understand, sir, do you reckon that growth, I mean, I don't know what guidance you might probably be giving the guidance when we talk to you post your numbers. I presume we'll have a conversation then. But do you reckon that the kind of growth that you exhibited, let's say in FY25 or an average of FY24 and 25, is something that can be carried on for the next 2-3 years at the very least?
Well, Neeraj, this is a seasonal industry. You can't know. I mean, you have to be, you can only pray to God for keeping the sun shining, So I think last year was a good season, and in anticipation of the good season, inventory levels are very low. So people are piling up on the inventory side right now in anticipation of the good season, whereas we are seeing some uptake coming from southern part of India and the western part of India, where heat waves have started coming in. And we are hearing news from the Met department that it is going to be harsh summers. So the trend can repeat, but it's very difficult to predict anything in the seasonal industry.
Just last question, and I don't know if there is any direct relevance, but want to get your view because we're talking about tariffs coming in tomorrow. We don't know what shape or form, on what products, what components. I mean, we're trying to compile a list, and it runs into pages of what reciprocal tariffs could look like. From your perspective, I'm sure that back of the envelope calculation must have happened on an impact, if any.
For our group, there is no impact because we don't export large numbers to US markets. But yes, I mean, we were looking for exporting in future. So we are looking forward what the relevance is. But I think we are already in talks for the bilateral trade agreement, and I'm sure there will be definitely good steps taken by government to ensure that the industry continues to prosper the way it was planned, and it can be a good opportunity, for Indian companies such as us.
About importing of components,
No, we don't have any impact. We don't have any impact on that.
Okay.
No.
Okay, so that's interesting to know. It's also interesting to know that future plans of export could be hit if this comes out. Of course, we'll wait and watch. Thank you so much, Mr. Singh, for speaking with us.
Thank you very much.